I'm being real right now because how you show up every single day is who you're going to become. And you don't want to be calling half-ass because then you're going to have a half-ass skill set. And you're literally not going to be able to come to and succeed at a company that you want to actually work at.
My name's Chris Bussing. Welcome to my channel. It's committed to helping more people create a life of freedom and impact through success in tech sales and the pursuit of self-development. I've got a great guest today, John Haboush, who is a dear friend, an amazing guy, and he's crushed it in sales development out in tech sales at Sprout Social, and who knows where he's going next. But you're going to want to stay for this whole conversation to learn about his journey into tech sales, some of the hurdles he overcame to be successful as a cold caller, how to cold call an outbound, get promoted, and ultimately create a life of freedom and impact using tech sales as a vehicle to get there. Make sure to like this video and share it with more people who could benefit from the message. And with that, let's dive into it. John, thanks so much for being here, man.
Chris, it's great to be here, man. I really respect the way that you're putting the show together, and it's what we have here. It's absolutely phenomenal, so thank you.
Dude, so good to have you. And let's talk about the tech sales community in Austin, because I met you through our guy, Trent Dressel, who's a beast.
Yeah, shout out to Trent, man.
Shout out to Trent.
You, dude. You're a good man. And also to JC Pollard, dude. He's been a great friend I've developed here also in Austin. Yeah, man, the tech sales community here is absolutely amazing.
So what are some of the things that you've learned coming from Austin? Didn't you come from California before?
Came from San Francisco.
Like,
yeah.
What was the transition like, and what have you discovered about Austin that make it such a great place to be?
I think it's always the community. As in my early 20s and late teens, I was always about hustle, right? And it was hustle, build skills, and almost do so in isolation. And as I've gotten a little bit older and wiser, hopefully, the community here has been awesome because you learn from people. And you do stuff like this where you meet people and you share common values and common interests, and then you go from there. And then you also start to think bigger because you're around people also thinking big, and it's just this chain effect that happens over and over again. It's really powerful. It's something I didn't understand in my early 20s.
Dude, who you surround yourself with, who we surround ourselves with really matters. And that's why I'm glad to call you a friend. You're always pushing me, and you are a very generous person. You want to help other people succeed. And of course, we're going to dig into how others can succeed in tech sales today. Now, I just noticed my microphone is in such an awkward position, so I might adjust it a little bit. And as I do that, tell us your story getting into tech sales, and particularly, I want to double click on your journey becoming a good cold caller, because you told me you had a stutter.
I did have
and
a
were
stutter.
literally embarrassing yourself in front of people, and you overcame it and taught yourself how to speak. So tell us that story.
Yeah. So for all you guys out there afraid of cold call, I would cold call on a cold call floor at Sumo Logic as an outbound BDR, and then forward from that, I would literally force myself to stutter or to make cold calls. Actually started when I was in about third grade. I consciously had this thought. I remember like it was yesterday. I was in Mrs. Phelps or Miss Phelps' third grade class. Remember, I had a stutter, and I was like, I'm not going to learn how to speak unless I raise my hand and force myself to stutter in front of my classmates.
Oh my gosh.
I was in third grade. I was about 11 years old, and I just literally raised my hand. I just kept doing it day after day, and I taught myself to get better at speaking over and over again. And something I don't talk about a lot because not people have asked me. And then the same thing happened in college. I still had it. It wasn't as bad. But then in the cold call room, you have to suddenly speak and for stutterers who do stutter, that's like a nightmare. When you have to suddenly speak like that and you're not ready. And so I had to teach myself again to relearn. So I would actually call coffee shops before, at 8 a.m. in the morning when I'm going to the office, I would call coffee shops and ask them what time their hours were. I knew what their hours were. I could see it on Google. But I'd force my mouth and my tongue. I could learn how to just suddenly speak. And I literally would do that before going to the office. So I was ready to speak for that day. That's really how I learned to clarify.
Dude,
yeah,
I am so inspired.
And now I'm 15,000 cold calls in or more.
15,000.
I've done multiple sales trainings for multiple sales orgs, and it's just been, I'm so grateful. But man, for those of you guys out there afraid to pick up the phone because of an accent or a stutter or whatever it is, it's so worth it too. You absolutely have to.
What was at the core of what drove you to lean into discomfort and do what you needed to overcome that stutter?
Dude, I'll be honest. Can I swear on this channel? Is that okay?
You fucking swear.
Cool, yeah.
You can fucking swear.
I want to swear. Dude, I'll be honest. I don't want to be my own fear's bitch. I see so many people live a life where, and I need to be careful what I talk about. I've seen so many people that around me that are living or have lived lives or living lives that are pretty limited. And I see, at least for myself and my own experience, I'll speak from my own experience, I'm not going to succumb to fear and allow it to limit what I can do in my life. And so I have to be absolutely ruthless when it comes to like what I need to overcome from a fear perspective, just because like that's my only way to create the life I want. There's no other way. Like there's no other way. I absolutely have to. There's no other option. So like, it's literally that, dude. Like I saw what it looked like to have a life where you're surrounded by fear, and I felt it before. And it's just like, that's just not an option, dude. It just can't be.
Fuck fear.
This can't be.
All right. And you remind me of Brandon Burchard's book, High Performance.
I love that guy. Yeah.
Dude, he's amazing.
Dude,
High
he's such
Performance
inspiration.
Habits.
Yeah.
And he studied the top people in the world. I think Usher, Oprah, business executives. And one of the habits was raising necessity.
Yes.
And
yeah.
that's what you make me
Yeah,
think of.
I
Like
like
there
that.
literally is no
Remember
other
it.
option.
Yeah.
And that's what it sounds like
Yeah.
you did.
Yeah. Yeah. A great motivation hack if it helps anyone. You can cut this out if you want, but like I always think about who am I going to be for my future kids and my future wife, and then for my own family. Those three things, like because the life that I have is going to directly dictate the quality of their lives, and that's like the greatest motivator for me. If I'm actually having a hard time,
We're keeping that in, baby, because that is so important. Motivation's the cornerstone of what is going to drive us to do the hard things needed to be successful, like picking up the phone and making cold calls. Now, I believe if we can be cold calling beasts and take action early in our career, talk about the freedom that opens up over time, and you create that ability to create opportunity from nothing. And later on in our career, we don't have to cold call as much because we have such a big network and we've created so much opportunity and abundance. So let's talk about cold calling now. Let's walk through how you approach cold calling. How do you think about it? And I'll volunteer that I tend to say, hey, I like to approach it with a flow. So it's not a perfectly worded script, but something authentic to you, and it's a framework. But how do you think about approaching cold calls?
yeah, I think the first thing I'm pretty like opinionated about this. Like I think the first thing is like don't be fucking generic. Like people are tired of generic cold calls. People are tired of them. If you're gonna call a VP of marketing or a CEO and you're gonna give them a generic pitch, you might as well not even call. Just don't.
I just want to know, what are your top initiatives? Or what's another example of a generic cold call?
Cold call. If I'm like, hey Chris, thanks for taking my call today. I'm reaching out because we're working with other podcasters like yourself and XYZ, and I don't even name any. And I'm just like, do you have any of these issues? If it's a script that you can say to 1,000 people over and over again, you're not doing something right. You got to have and again, John Barrows talks about this. In any of the great Trent talks about this. It's like you have to have a piece of research that really grabs your attention. Here's an example. I called the CEO of Jacob and Company. It's a big custom watchmaker. The guy's name is Benjamin. He's about our age.
What's his role?
He's the CEO of the company.
And a quick thing, what are you selling? Sprout
I'm
Social?
sorry. Yeah, I'm a mid-market account executive at Sprout Social. We sell a social media platform that empowers marketing teams to get better data on what their organic audiences are doing, so then they can better market to them.
Beautiful. Okay.
And we just also acquired Tagger Media, so we do influence marketing. Thanks.
Hey.
So essentially, though, I make a cold call, and I'm like, "Hey, Benjamin, this is a really well-researched Wednesday morning cold call. How are you?" He laughs, so now I know I got about probably 20 or 30 seconds. I go, I saw an article from March 15th, 2021, when you just took over the business from your dad. And then I went into my pitch. And he's like, yeah, you need to go talk to my VP of marketing. And then, he made the intro. So like, you got to you really have to go to that level when you're going to call people like that, because like they're so tired of the typical stuff. You got to hit them right in the face with value.
And with warmth. And also you got to do this fake phone thing right here. I love it. Okay, let's double click on that piece. That was insightful. And I haven't heard that before. And I've had a lot of great guests talk about cold calling. So the first line, I thought it was funny. And it's like, also you're like, this is a very well-researched cold call. Say that first part?
Yeah, so it's like if I'm calling, hey Chris, this is, I'm saying my name. Hey Chris, this is John. I'm calling on, now I have to think about it. It's our, hey Chris, this is a very well-researched Wednesday morning cold call. How are you? I don't say my name. And now they're like, well-researched. I wonder what this kid's got. Right. And then they kind of laugh.
And he's confident.
Yeah,
he believes in himself.
Yeah.
And it's like, I love throwing in the idea of well-researched, or can I share the specific reason I'm calling you? It alludes to like this person put in the work. I like the
specific reason. People have used that a lot. So I think buyers are used to it.
Okay,
so
fair
I
enough.
That's my gut. I don't have any data on that. So that's my gut.
Yeah.
So I use the well-researched just because it kind of catches people off guard.
I love the what's the word? It's original. That's an original line. And maybe other people could come up with their own flavor of that, but at the core, it makes total sense. What was the next part that also that you followed up with again?
Yeah. So with him specifically, the CEO, I say, and he laughs, and I'm like, hey, it sounds like I got 30 seconds. And I just kind of laugh, and I'll go like, my name is John Haboush, calling from South Social. The reason I'm calling is because, and then I went into, now this is very tailored, right? So I'm calling CEO, it's very tailored, and there's targeted, which we'll talk about in a second. But tailored it's like very specific one-to-one research. Hey, saw in an article from March 15, 2021, when you took the family business over from your dad, that you said social media was going to be the number one thing that led to your success because of how your watches looked. Notice that. And then I did a comparison, a side-by-side comparison I sent him of his top competitors against his brand in terms of engagement rate and earned media. And so I referenced the report I sent him. And I said, hey, how are you guys handling this? Or is this on your guys' radar? And so like that is, the formula is simple. You have the opener, right, which is makes people laugh, have something insightful. As Florent Tattoo always says, you ask an impact question or a thought-provoking question, and then you just be quiet.
Be quiet.
That's it.
Let them talk.
Yes, let them talk.
You come in with warmth, you establish credibility, and the specificity is a word that has been in my mind lately. You showed that you read a specific article. You called out specific details. You didn't even just allude to the article at a high level. You called out specific details from the article.
Dates stop them, because dates stop people's heads, because like, whoa, I know. The level of detail will freak people. This is the principle. I got one-to-one sales coaching from Marcus Chan.
Dude, I had him on the channel.
He's a great dude. He's
oh
such
my
a
gosh!
good mentor.
Shout out to Marcus Chan.
Yeah, Marcus Chan. I love you, man. You're a great dude. But he one of his principles for getting attention is like being very specific, like so frequently specific. People are like, whoa,
dude. Yeah. Oh my gosh! And that was the magic that helped me be successful cold emailing in my career and at Google Cloud.
That's right.
Now I had it at Google alias. Let's be real. I had that branding, and it's powerful. But I won an award for breaking into greenfield accounts on AWS, and I crushed it because I was so freaking specific.
Yeah.
What you're saying resonates. And again, shout out to Marcus Chan. We'll have to send him this clip.
Oh, dude, So, and then do you want me to go into targeted, how you can do a little more, like a little bit more at scale, or do you want us to stop here on that?
Let's finish up on the cold calling piece and then go to the targeted. Okay, I think that's a great idea. And you mentioned a comparison. What was that all about?
Yeah. So when I mentioned the article, it was something specific to him where he actually quoted the importance of social media and his brand's ability to succeed in the long term. So now all of a sudden I have something in his head that he's probably thinking about, and I go, and then what you want to do is once you have an insight, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create a gap. Right? I'm always trying to create what I call a gap. You offer an insight, and then you're trying to create contrast of here's your future state, and here's what you said, and then here's what's actually happening, and then there's a gap in between there. And so I'm trying to always create a gap when I'm calling someone or trying to get their attention, because then it stops what they're thinking. Like, oh, you make them realize on their own that there's a gap. So gap is insight, right? Whether it's a future state that you should be at where you're not, or something you said that you're not being consistent with, because now I'm creating a gap. So insight is, hey, saw in an article March 15th, 2021, you said social media was the key to you guys, differentiating from the brands. Great. Notice that in a competitive report I sent to you on, I think it was like Patek Philippe, I don't even know the watch, but it's put on Patek Philippe and another competitor, that you guys have a pretty solid engagement rate, but your awareness in terms of earned media value is actually lower than those those two other competitors. Is that at all on your radar? Or you can ask, how are you guys thinking about that?
Open-ended questions.
Open-ended.
Get them
simple.
Talking.
Keep it simple. Keep the CTA simple. Call to action. Keep it simple. Keep it simple, especially for C-suite. They don't want fluff. Keep it simple.
Yeah, and I have to go back to the specificity and the pointed research. I just remember an example when I was at Google Cloud. If a company's public, you can look at their 10K, and in the risk factors, they're the greatest fears of the CFO. And I remember one email where a CEO. Now, we're talking email, okay? So a little bit tangent, but a CEO called me back in response because I alluded to, I noticed you're reading your 10K and the risk factors, this and this and this, and your investment in the Mind Innovation Lab. So I combined it with another article. And so whether it's cold calls or cold emails, that stuff can get people.
Bard will help you. If you do Bard chat, all right, so shout out to Ryan Barretto. He's the president at Sprout. He's very involved in getting the salespeople more educated on how to use technology to be better at offering insights.
Yeah.
And he's like gave us this Bard template that I've shifted for my own purposes, but he gave us to like put into Bard and just research this stuff. Bard or ChatGPT will give you that information. You just you like put it as part of the query.
Okay, so basically I was spending time in the past looking up 10Ks and reading through them and doing all this manual research. And you're saying with Bard or ChatGPT, and is it 4.0, the paid version, that you can get them up? You can get, so we need to know, like, I feel confident with the paid version, and maybe you can get it expensed by your company. You can get the most up-to-date info is what you're saying, and to save a lot of time so you could just get the insight and focus on executing.
I have to be careful what I say, because I can't say that I know for sure that the sources it's pulling from is from the 10K. But if I say, hey, search something on the 10K, I can get info. Right? I have to be careful, though, because I don't know. I'm going to take that statement back, but it's still helpful.
I think the thought is that we're heading in the right direction, and we're going to have to just see it's in cutting edge technology, and it's going to continue to evolve. But on principle, it will help us be more effective in getting insights.
Quicker, dude. I can ask it questions, and it tells me this company has this issue or that issue. I still am a big fan of reading 10Ks, but I'm like, if I can get that off of Bard or off of ChatGPT, dude, all day long, man.
Dude, I'm opening up to using it more for writing emails, even writing content like scripts for videos.
I see. Honestly,
because
dude,
it's like I always saw cold emailing as an art, and even coming up with my scripts that I love writing. But there is something to be said for embracing technology to help accelerate time to putting out the value, and then putting our special sauce and our own personal touch and creativity on top. Yeah. And I've even seen people who teach ChatGPT about one's own writing style and personality, and it can become light and write in your style. And so, okay, that's a whole tangent we don't need to go down to today, but it's like, any other thoughts you want to riff on that? Otherwise, we'll go back to cold calling. No, because you know what?
I don't feel like I'm as qualified to speak on that. It's because I use some of it, but I know people way more advanced, so I'm not.
I'm not either, honestly. And so if the audience wants to check out ChatGPT use cases for sales, I had Jake Dunlap on the channel. He's the CEO of Scaled Consulting. So guys, y'all can check that out if you want. But cold calling, getting back, this has been gold so far. Coming into the conversation with credibility, making it warm, bringing insight, asking an open-ended question, and now he's talking about, where could things head next, and how maybe there's what do you typically see? Did they typically say, "Oh yeah, that's awesome, let's set a call," or did objections come up? I love.
So I mean, when I've given a number of cold call trainings to different orgs, different people, or different like professional groups have asked me, and I always make it really simple. There's gonna be like five major horsemen. Like I call them the five horsemen, and then their awful dog. There's six, I think, major cold call objections people are gonna get. It's gonna be like, no, a few of them are like, we don't have any budget, or hey, I'm in a meeting, or hey, this product category is not important to us, which is the five horsemen's dog. Because if you sell like social media, for example, some companies will say social media is not important for us, and so
that's an interesting one.
Yeah,
this isn't a priority. That's a very that can apply to anyone.
They're categorically dismissing what you're selling. Period. Not saying this isn't a priority right now. They're saying they're dismissing it as a whole.
Okay.
So for some people that sell what would be considered nice to have for some businesses, you have to know where your stuff stacks in their priority list and be ready for that response, because that's going to happen. If you sell CRM,
good point,
is different. If you're selling like a scheduling software or something, or even Asana or Monday.com, for some businesses, they just don't categorically find it important. And again, people's products aren't going to be for everyone. Like, you know what I'm saying? But you just have to be ready for that if you are going to call those people and have a strong POV why they should need it.
Quick note, you're right. An ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning software like SAP or Oracle NetSuite, that's the brains of a company's financial operations. Like a business needs that. Yeah. Cybersecurity, you need some security. You need a CRM, customer relationship management software like Salesforce and HubSpot. And there's other softwares that are critical to front end and back end operation of a business. Yeah. And so, great point. There are softwares that are nice to have. They can bring tremendous value. But so you're saying for the nice to have categories, that is an actual objection. So it isn't a priority. This doesn't matter to us.
This isn't relevant for our business. It's not like that's like when I call like a B2C retail company that's like cutting out, they're not telling me that. When I'm calling businesses that are maybe in like the B2B enterprise SaaS space or something, and you got to be ready for that. I'm not saying they're right, by the way. I'm saying they're typically uninformed, or they have a jaded perspective on social media, and how it impacts their business. So I have to be ready with the POV as to why that I think they should take another look.
POV meaning point of view.
Point of view.
Sometimes I call it a value hypothesis. You remind me of the challenger. Teach, tailor, take control. Teach someone about a problem they didn't know they had.
I think challenger, you gotta be a little bit careful. I like the philosophy, but like careful who you talk to, because if you challenge someone in that space and they really do know more than you, like just. I say challenge, but also have respect depending on who you're talking to, because they might know more than you, and you have to be able to spar with them. And like,
dude, that's the thing about the challenger. You know, it was the basis for the sales training at Google Cloud and innovative companies, and it's great. And I actually had Matt Dixon on the channel in a live stream a while back. Yeah, and we had like it crash while we were on it. It was like, but we kind of like pushed through. But the challenger requires you are literally like a top-notch consultant. That's the challenge of the challenger. You literally need to be so well educated and knowledgeable. And let's be real, most of us aren't. I mean, I
will say I have been, and I can't say I've done it this month, or last month, but I talked about one marketer informally every single month. I work to something I need to be better at now. It was really good at before the new year, but it helps me to hear how they talk about their problems. And so I'll talk to a customer I've sold to. I'll say, hey, do you have 20 minutes just to talk about how Sprouts helped you? What's going on? And then I hear how they talk about their issues, and that goes right into my sales in my cold call copy. I was really good about doing it every month before the new year, and now I've gotten a little bit off of it, but I need to get back on it.
That's a gem, by the way. Yeah, I don't hear that a lot.
Oh, you have,
but I know it to be true. That is talk about a way to obsess and take it to the next level, to be able to empathize.
How they make buying decisions, which is the whole. But like, dude, you got to understand, like, where does your product sit in someone's priority list generally? Like, I know when I call a business, they're really focused on paid ads. I know what they're going to say to me already when they're talking about social in terms of paid ads. Stuff like, they're two different animals and two different value props. But I know what they're going to say. I already know it. So it gives me a huge advantage. I'm expecting them to push back and say we're focused on paid ads. Great. Like, you already know that.
You know how to frame value and the problems from the point of view of another customer. It's like, don't take it from me. Take from some of the customers that work with us that I talk to. They said this, and it's going to, the prospect you're reaching out to is going to be like, wow, John actually gets my world. I think he could help me.
Literally.
Like, he actually cares.
That's the best way to build trust. People don't care about your product. Everyone cold calling. No one gives a shit. Please talk to them in their own language. Show them that you've done the research. Show them you've talked to other people and work with them like them. Work with other people like them. They don't care about your product. They don't care that you've worked with Google unless they're like a Google competitor. Like, they just don't care. They really don't. They don't care about you. Like, please.
Dude, it's like, take us and I out of it, how great we are out of it. It's all about them, and focus on problems over products. I think that's the greatest thing that someone could do coming in as a new SDR is learn about the problems that your product solves. Why did the founders create the product? And talk to customers. And, you know, if, you know, what's interesting, if you're selling to engineering departments, why not like go to your engineers at your company to understand as well, in addition to calling current customers and ask them about their pains, or you're selling to marketing, like talk to your own marketing
Literally,
people,
that's what I did in my first 90 days at Sprout. I pulled the people who run paid at Sprout and the people on our organic team. They're great people, by the way. I love those teams. Like, and they taught me everything about like their world and why people buy Sprout. And then I got the language. I got the lingo. And so now I can talk about it. Those are the easiest people to start with. If you're afraid of reaching out to, or if you're a BDR and you're like, well, I don't have any customers to go talk to, I haven't sold anyone. Fine. Reach out to people internally and ask if those people know any other marketers in the industry who would be willing to go talk to, or whoever your equivalent is. Like, it's just going the extra inch, but like that extra inch gives you this much more leverage because you now have all this information, perspective, and empathy for the people you're selling to. And again, I'm not perfect at it. I make mistakes all the time, but like it just gives you a little bit of an extra edge that just gives you so much more leverage though, because no one's going there. No one else is asking these marketers. She's like, oh, you're the first person ever. Sprout's been around for like a decade, and they're a 1,300 person company at this point. How many salespeople have walked through those fucking doors, and no one's ever done that? Like, dude, I will never fucking apologize for the success that I have, because like no one's willing to put the push. And you're the same exact way. Sorry, it's a hot topic for me.
I love it, dude. I got chills. Like, dude, I mean, we're both passionate about sales development and living a good life. And the cold call itself is the tip of the iceberg. Underneath is all of the motivation, the work, the preparation that you put in. You know, I freaking love that. I'm fired up. I want to talk about targeting because I realized like we could have a map in the wrong direction and be going for the wrong companies, right?
This is
and
such a good
so this
topic.
is a good
Yeah,
topic.
such a good
and
topic.
dude, we're
God.
my therapist Suzanne, when I walked in for the first time, I said I think I have ADD, and she laughed out loud. She said, "Of course you do." And my mom never wanted me tested, but the thing is, in this conversation, I love we're bouncing around to different topics. So to that end, let's talk targeting. Then we will go back to cold calling to talk about objection handling.
Let's do it.
Okay, and then close out the cold calling and go from there. Targeting. It's pretty important,
This is the highest level of leverage you can. All right, so this is a if any of you guys listen to Alex Hormozy, I love the guy.
I like that dude. He's
some
brilliant.
people might not like his lifestyle. Like put that aside for people who are offended by his lifestyle. Just look at like how he talks about business because it's really good. I also fuck with his lifestyle. I like it. But like this is the highest point of leverage that you can get outside of choosing the company you're actually going to work at. Florence Tautula had a really good post the other week of like one of the biggest leverage points you can have is choosing the right company. And so like when you look at like different points of leverage, the highest point is choosing the market that you're going to sell in. The market being the company you choose.
And your
to work
companies, that's on your company. And also figuring out, making sure you're applying to the right company where you
that's
know.
That's on people. That's
on
your
us
that's
as
on
aspiring SDRs or AEs to find the right company.
You have
and
to find
boom,
the right company.
And to be in the right market where you have a huge upside anyways.
So after you choose the right market to play in, and then the next level of leverage is going to be finding the right accounts, because you can give 100 really good accounts to a shit ass rep or mediocre rep. They're probably going to get close, so they're going to hit their number. And you can give 100 really bad accounts to a really good rep. They're going to have a hard time hitting because of the amount of leverage each person has. So if you can find the right account, and I'm defining leverage as like the amount of money you can make for every single unit of time or unit of effort you put in. I call that leverage in this instance. So it's like all I'm focused on when I'm outbounding. I'm actually gonna go talk to Trent about this in a week, but like, how do I find and continue to tighten my ICP so I get the most amount of leverage in the accounts I choose? Because I could have the worst email I send an account, but if it's the right time and the right type of account, dude, that might be a 100K contract.
Dude, you took the words out of my mouth.
And people don't
You
understand
could take
this.
an average
people
seller.
Don't understand. You take a shit ass seller, dude. Shit ass seller. Dude, look at the last decade in software sales. Like seriously, like people are just pulling it in because money's flying around. You know.
By the way, when I was at Oracle, where I cut my teeth in sales out in Boston, I did a good job as SDR. I got promoted, and I networked to get to named accounts in national tech. What that translates to. Yeah. And
I was never on that team.
And I mean, it probably doesn't mean shit to anyone, but what it means is I had the best account one of the best accounts in Oracle in that business unit called SunGuard Availability. They just needed more licensing. I hit my number halfway through the year, taking 2-hour lunch breaks. So, by the way, that didn't really teach me sales. It
Actually, probably taught you the wrong lesson, depending on how you
but it shows that to your point, you don't have to be a great seller. Yeah. I was literally an SDR the first time AE, crushing it, and one of the leaders on my team, buying everyone coffee, making over 6 figures. And it was because I was I had the right accounts in the right territory. Okay, so to your point, now of course I learned how to hunt after being put in Oracle Cloud and then going to Google Cloud third in the market, and now being at a startup that people didn't know coming from Korea. Yeah. So I've grown a lot since then, but it's really the accounts, man, and
it's the accounts, dude.
I
have a lot of SDRs that have come and ask me whether it's at Sprout or not, or just people randomly on LinkedIn. I'm like, dude, like make sure you know the accounts. Make sure you know the accounts you're going after and you tighten your ICP. If you're in a rut right now as a BDR, even as an AE prospecting, and you're doing the activity, it's probably the accounts you're hitting. It might be the way you're approaching cold call, but like make sure you're hitting good accounts before you start fixing the skill sets, which is like cold calling and that stuff.
Quick note, when I was at Google Cloud and I was in an AE role, one of my managers, Mark Hall, shout out, he's at Sequoia Capital now in the VC space. By the way, that's a cool path you can take. You go from tech sales to VC. I had multiple people from Google, including my field rep, he went to a VC as well. And he told me, he's like, Chris, because I was behind on my number, he's like, take a step back and basically look strategically at who I was targeting and all that stuff. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing you can do over crafting an email a little bit better or fine-tuning your opener on a cold call, you know? So,
and these are lessons, dude, that like most people don't learn from like their neighborhood or their parents or any of their uncles. You have to learn it just through doing sales and business, right? It's like I didn't know this stuff. I inherently understood the power of leverage, but like I know I had to learn it, man. And
Yeah.
it's like,
And so you got increasingly specific on how you described your ICP. Can you expand a little more on that?
So there's a framework I use now. It's actually comes from Greg McGowan's book Essentialism. He has a framework for making decisions. It's that 2x3 box or whatever, through whatever it is. It's two rows, 3 columns. And so in the first row, you have your 3 musts, right? We're making a decision. What must, like for going back to the accounts, like the account, like for it to even be an account I consider, one of my 3 musts is that, it has to be a certain amount in revenue, right? Or it has to be in a certain industry. It has to be in retail, like B2C retail. It has to be like a hospitality or something like that, because you're thinking social media.
Because based on your ICP or like the case studies and where most the bulk of your revenue comes from.
We have 64 case studies. I read like 47 of them, like word for word.
Boom. Okay, I just wanted to double click on how you got to that.
Yeah.
Knowing that.
Yeah, I'm saying. Well, I'm making the point is for the people watching is like you gotta do the research.
Yes.
You gotta talk to really high performing reps. You gotta go do the research. So then I know like my 3 must haves. It's gotta be like in hospitality or in B2C retail. It's got to be a certain revenue amount. And then, they have to have X number of social media accounts or whatever it is. Yep. And then the second row is your 3 nice to haves. Ideally, they have a marketing team of like over 4. Ideally, they, use the CRM called Salesforce. And ideally, they have specifically a social media specialist.
Boom.
So then
tech stack, like people involved.
People, whatever. And then what I look at is I'm going, okay, then any account I even consider has to meet all 3 must-haves. And then if it hits all 3 nice-to-haves, it's definitely a tier 1. If it hits 2 of the nice-to-haves and 3 must-haves, it's a tier 2. And if it hits only 3 of the musts but none of the nice-to-haves or just 1, it's a tier 3. That's it. It's that
beautiful.
Simple. It's that simple.
I love how you're applying a book like Essentialism to sales. And what you're doing that I pride myself in doing is applying some of the best pieces of literature out there on just living a great life and entrepreneurship to sales. I feel like sales is a path where you can apply the mindset and habits of high performance in action to produce incredible fruit.
Yeah.
Are there any other tangent question? It's just there for me. Are there any other key books like Essentialism where you apply their philosophy and approach to sales? That's a hard question, but
it's a great question, dude. I'm thinking about it. That aren't sales books. You know what book transformed me? What I think, and I'll explain why, is the book Principles. My good friend, John O'Connell, who oddly enough, going back to the VC talk, he is a VC. He gave me a book when I was probably 18 or 19 in college. He gave me a book called Principles, and Principles just came out by
Ray Dalio.
And I've read it since then probably about 7 or 9 times. I had it all highlighted and stuff. And like the one premise of that book is that things happen in patterns. And it's essentially, for me, that was the biggest lesson. Life, things happen in patterns. So if you understand the patterns, then you can understand how to like do life well, and you can understand with that context, you understand the patterns, you can then do really anything well. So there's patterns to sales. There's patterns to what makes a good cold call. There's patterns to what makes a good email. There's patterns to what makes a good like closer, which really isn't a good closer. It's really good discovery. And so we'll
talk about that later.
We'll talk about later. And there's patterns what make people fulfilled. There's patterns of stuff. And so like if I can just learn the patterns and understand the patterns, I don't have to be that smart. I'm not like naturally that like IQ driven smart. You find patterns, dude. And it's that simple. And so you apply it to sales. What are the patterns of the highest performing salespeople? And let's literally copy those.
Yeah, that's so true. And with Jake Dunlap, who I mentioned before, CEO of Scaled Consulting, he said one of the biggest breakthroughs was realizing that process can produce those predictable results. So you mentioned patterns, process. I think that there's some overlap. I'm sure there's some nuance between the two. But that's something I'm realizing is some of the greatest sales professionals that absolutely blow it out. They keep it simple, stupid, and they've identified patterns and processes that they stick to. Mm-hmm. And they're not like, you want to throw in creativity, but like at the end of the day, there's things that work. So I love the call out to Principles with Ray Dalio. It's helpful to understand how to identify an ICP and put in the research, and then even look at specific criteria and 3 must-haves. Now, what about personas within the ICP? Mm-hmm. I think it's obvious, right, that we need to be reaching out to the right people. I would say there are decision makers, there are influencers and things like that. But any thoughts on would we call it the ideal persona? Or
no?
How do you think about that?
I think it's a good thought. Like, There's a lot of books that really go through this really well, and so I'll keep it simple. But like, you have to understand that when you're talking to certain people within the org, they all have different problems. Like my social media manager or my influencer manager has different problems. They speak a different lexicon than my VP of marketing or my CMO. And so I have to understand that like when I'm emailing and cold calling and outbounding to a VP of marketing or CMO or even CEO, depending on the company, like I'm speaking a whole different lexicon. I'm talking about customer acquisition cost, talking about lifetime customer value. You know, I'm talking about potentially like customer retention. Okay. When I'm talking to the social manager or the influencer manager, I'm talking about more efficient. I'm talking about helping them to like look good to their boss through reporting on ROI. Right. I'm talking about two different things. So when I'm going to an account outbounding, I have to know who's who in the zoo and how they all connect. And then I speak a different language to each when I'm actually outbounding.
Beautiful.
I have two separate sequences for each types of like above the line and then below the line. That comes from Florin. So thank you, Florin. And so I just literally like I separate them.
Let's double click into above the line and below the line because I don't want to assume the audience knows what that means.
Got it.
Who's above the line?
Yeah.
What does that refer to?
I would define it as, and again, I did not make this up. This is a Florin Tautula concept when it comes to sequencing or to emailing. I've just used it in my own. But like above the line is like I would consider VP and up. And it's going to change depending on how big the orgs are and stuff. But like people actually have power to get stuff done and to get things signed above the line. VP, CXO, whoever that is, CEO, CMO, COO. Below the line, usually director and below. They speak different lexicons. They speak different languages, right, of business. I know I'm talking to someone that's kind of basic when they refer to leadership as higher ups. That's the key word I hear a lot in the marketing space. And then I'm talking to someone that say, oh, like my higher ups need to go X, Y, Z. I immediately know I'm talking to someone that they're probably great at their job, but I need to go find.
They use the technology and they're impacted on a day-to-day basis. Maybe they can influence and bubble up the chain, but the above the line folks decide.
Yeah,
they're all important. Their KPIs
they're all important though. It's not like the user's not. These are so important because they share what's going on, and like their boss is gonna go, hey, which tool do you think we should use? Oh, I think we should use this one, and then they're gonna go, okay, like they're gonna look at the economics and stuff like that, but like. It takes a group to decide. People aren't just deciding in a silo. Like, and I'm not the first one to say this. This is not. I'm not saying anything new. Like, decisions are being made by groups. So, like, you got to get everyone in the same boat.
And you need to tailor how you cold call or reach out via email and pitch to different personas based on their problems. Yeah. And ultimately win over this collective buying committee. Yes. And there's a book, Selling to the C-Suite, that one of my mentors at my current company recommended. And I just started to dig in, and I haven't even finished it. But I noticed that there is some type of cycle, especially for enterprise companies, where it starts in the ideation phase, like maybe a CEO or a C-level comes up with an idea, and the executives love ideas. And they might think about the strategy and setting criteria and things like that for a solution. But then it passes to the end users and some of the middle management to evaluate different vendors and things. And there's a whole cycle, and then maybe gets back to the C-levels for moving forward and sign off and things like that. So it's interesting to think too about that journey. And that was super high level, but obviously it's nice to be able to catch the executive early in that cycle and go from top down where he refers you to the influencers, and you actually help frame the criteria for their evaluation. I'm more so though thinking like in my space and services or like clouded, it's pretty competitive, and there's, so in those cases that it's good to get there early. But last thing I'll say, and then I want you to riff on it, is I've entered into deals like when I was at Google Cloud where AWS had already been in there for a while and we're coming in super late. So AWS shaped the customer's decision criteria. Like you know what I'm saying? Where we could have gotten there first and been the one to shape their decision making and position ourselves to win. So anyways, back over to you after my little TED talk.
No, man, no. It's such a good point. I think too, like when we're thinking about outbounding, I know it's a hot topic for a lot of people. It's a generating pipeline now. Like, dude, some of my outbound deal cycles have just been months of me building relationships with people. I just got off the phone yesterday with a VP of marketing or director of marketing. She's like a VP of marketing at this a different luxury watch company. I did like a Friday afternoon cold call, and she was in a great mood.
Yes, that's a hack right there, by the way.
JC Pollard told me. I mean, he didn't tell, but like he has a really good talk track for that. But like I got her on it, and she was like, hey, like we have this big project, but like we're like 1 or 2 months out from looking at this because like I've been like so we scheduled time to like to talk about it then. But I immediately sent her some like cookies because I know that they're having a big launch. I'm like, here's the feel.
I love
saying
that.
you do things to build a relationship. You start to learn about the business, and then you show. And then I guess what I'm gonna do. I know they have a product launch. I'm gonna go make a listening topic because I have technology. Thank you, Sprout, that listens for things on social. I'm gonna send her a report on how people are talking about her product when they relaunch. And I'm not gonna ask for anything. Now, who do you think's gonna shape that evaluation?
Value, dude.
Who do you think's gonna shape the evaluation, dude?
One of my first of all, you're in there proactively, and that's huge. And you're applying a principle that I came up. I came up with it. It's just a thought: give to get. And I don't mean that in like a.
You're so good about that, though.
No,
so natural
and dude,
for you.
and it sounds like I don't
yeah.
mean it even to be manipulative, but let's be real: the law of reciprocity does kick
dude,
in.
yeah, totally.
But just being generous. You are such a generous guy, and that's why we're friends. You're that way in your personal friendships. But dude, you were bringing value with the cookies. Did you say cookies?
Yeah,
and then
cookies,
also
dude.
a report, like insight.
Shout out to Groove Cookie Company, by the way. The CEO Grayson shot me like a free account. He gave me free cookies.
Oh my gosh.
Like, dude,
that goes a long way. And so I am big on that in outbound too. It's like some of my, my first cold call ever was to Arian, the CTO of OfferUp, and eventually it led to a
Was your first cold call ever?
At Google Cloud. At Google Cloud. Sorry.
Okay. I was like, wow, bro.
Wow.
You guys started hot. All right. Shit.
But my first cold call when I joined Google Cloud as an inside seller, and he picked up and he said, we're all set on AWS. Fortunately, I'd researched our differentiators and I saw they were focused on global expansion. And what do you know? Google has a differentiated approach. I threw out an idea. He said to reach out when, our new CTO comes in, I'm moving the board. And I did 3 months later and then led to a meeting. So
Dude,
to your
it takes
point,
time,
your
man.
point, it takes time.
Be respectful of that. Yeah.
I had one other thought on the cold calling piece, but I can't remember it. But I will say I actually owe a customer in my current role chocolates, and so I'm gonna send it out to
Better
him.
get some chocolates, baby.
Oh yeah, I remember it. Cool. I'm glad I got to it. I offered Arian also like give to get and it free tickets, which were like $1,000 to Google Next, a big conference. Now, not everyone's fortunate enough to go to a company that has such resources and has big events. But if your company is hosting events and fun experiences, even networking, bringing people together, especially when trusted advisors are going to be there, like technical executives and other customers, like offer that up. And that's another example for me of, giving the gap, being generous. Yeah.
Dude, I agree. Yeah. And find ways to be generous in like a real way. Be human, like I didn't understand this for a while and I'm still, so my manager's really good about this. And he's teaching me, like reminding me like, you gotta be a human throughout the whole cycle. Cause you're working with humans at the end of the day. They have real problems. They got other stuff going on. Like, you gotta be a human, man. And it's how do you do that? You just like take a deep breath. You stop it and realize it's not about you. And I still remind myself that every single day. And it's just like, it's a practice.
Giving also, let's be real, it has to be unconditional. So I give and I do have a desire to build a relationship and eventually it'll put money in my pocket, but it has to be seen as a byproduct that is, it may or may not happen, but just giving inherently.
Yeah, it may or may not happen. You have to realize it may or may not happen.
Because imagine some people can do this in dating or relationships where you like get nice or give things and give someone a compliment. Like, oh, you think you're beautiful, hoping that then like conditional on them, maybe going out with them or something. It could be the same with sales and just to give from a place of abundance and without expectation, but knowing that a byproduct of a business could happen.
If you do it 100 times, you're going to get. You already know it's just a law. It's just
it's just an interesting thought. It's kind of deep, but I feel like
it's how people work.
It's our intent. That matters.
Yeah, but don't come off as slimy because I've done the slimy stuff too. When I was in my BDR days, and it's just like not even mean to. I just didn't know any better, and it's just like when you're gonna do something like that, or like give cookies, or just like couch it in a way. It's like human.
Yeah.
Right? Be human. Like, don't be like, oh, so excited to talk to you. 1 month from now, like you said, here's some cookie. Like, hey, good luck with the launch.
Dude, and I've come a long way, and it's a continual journey. I still have a lot of room to grow, but I just remember, I've told this story before. I was out in Seattle at the Google Cloud at Inside Sales, one of my first CEO in-person meetings at that time, and like getting some field experience before I ended up getting promoted full-time to the field. And I was there in the office and I was nervous and did some awkward small talk. And I fortunately had James Carlson, who was my mentor at the time, shout out, he might be at Grubhub now, that was there with me. Kind of, what would we call it? Like riding alongside you out in the field. And the CEO and I think the CTO or VP of Eng was there, and they shared some pain points about their system on Heroku having outages. And that was a key pain point that we helped at Google Cloud companies that were having downtime. We could provide a more available platform and help them scale without issues. And I said something like, I'm really excited to hear about your outages problem. And talk about how self-oriented. I'm happy you have a problem, so you can buy from me.
It happens, man.
And so but it's hilarious looking back at it, and that's another example, of But
I mean, good for you for going there and doing it, because you have to do it in order to learn. I think this is where people get
it's just hilarious that I said that. That was stupid.
Yeah, dude, but you have to do it in order to learn. You have to make mistakes in order to learn. Like, I could go down this road a while. I just talking you have to just do it and allow mistakes to happen and then learn. And it just is what it is.
And what's amazing too is I made a mistake and we still were able to continue the conversations, even though I got a look from the CEO like, are you kidding me? It's amazing in life how we can mess up, we can falter and learn from it, but still, move forward. And I recently had a deal close last month, and in that final call that was, addressing concerns and framing the value and that led up to the close, I felt like I didn't do a very good job, and yet the deal still closed. So that's the beauty of sales, is just keep learning and keep showing up, and you don't have to be perfect, and things can still fall your way. Especially if you're focused on the right accounts, as we talked about.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to tie this in now to objection handling. Remember,
You're
we
amazing,
said,
by the way. I don't know how you're tying this.
Remember, we said we would get back to objection handling?
You're amazing. Yeah.
And we talk about, intent matters. And one thing I think of with objections is coming from a place of detachment rather than desperately trying to force an outcome.
Dude,
when you're forcing an outcome, I'm not interested.
Such a lesson.
Oh yeah, people who say not interested, they're usually because and you're trying to or we're with a competitor. Yeah, people on that competitor. That. How do you approach your mindset on objection handling? And then let's look at maybe an example of it could be I'm not interested. We're all set. We have a competitor. So, what's first your mindset on objection handling?
I think at first you have to slow down. And I think you just got to slow down and realize that they're human beings. And I think it's a mixed bag here, because you have to really kind of read it in the moment of is this a real objection? Are they actually just happy on their platform? Or is it because, they're just giving me the, they're kind of just they're just giving me the automatic whatever. And so what my philosophy is, first, slow down. Second off, just kind of test it. Just I had on this cold call with this lady. She's like, we're in the middle of a project, really not a good time. And I just kind of tested it. I'm like, okay, what exactly do you, I really, first off, really appreciate you sharing that. Just curious, what do you mean that it's not a good time? Right. And she starts to explain, just slow down. But at least I get some more context.
Hey, I love that, because especially early in my career, and I can have this happen now even at times, when I hear objections, all of a sudden something goes off and it's oh shit, I'm running out of time.
Yes,
I'm panicking. And then I start talking faster. Oh yeah,
dude,
yeah. And so it's that piece of slowing down, dude.
Yeah.
What
I didn't mention was on the call is my first reaction was, and I started instead of listening, I started objection handle. And then she stopped me. And then I was I just committed this sin of cold calling. And then I stopped and I backed away. And then I came back with what I just said. And because it still happens. Sometimes I just I've been trying to get in touch with her for so long. I finally got her. And I was slow down,
dude.
John.
And you know what I think of? I've had this work for me is vulnerability in the moment. It's you know what? Let me stop here. I realize.
I said, hey, human to human.
Yes.
Hear you. And then especially with marketers, because they're really human people, very if you say, you just kind of really mean it. They're they
it's I'm sorry. I am
you're human, dude. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
I realize I'm trying to justify and explain it. We might not even be a fit. Honestly, I just want to understand your perspective a little more. You were such a priority for me. I've been reaching out for a long time. Sometimes I come clean. I really wanted to talk to you. You are a priority. Yeah. I think we can help. Yeah. And just that vulnerability and authenticity matters. So, but anyways, back to you on this.
No, dude. I mean, I think there's nothing I'm going to say. It's really anything per se new. I'm just going to reiterate old principles that many people who are much more wise than I have said. And it's just going to be like, slow down, allow yourself to make mistakes. You might get on the phone with someone that you finally have gotten in touch with after months, and you're going to be excited. Yeah. And they're going to be in a good mood, and you're going to want to really sell them. And if you do, and you accidentally make that first mistake, take a step back and just like be human.
One other thing, by the way, is like, I just have to say, hang in there. Don't hang up on yourself.
Yeah.
Hang in there.
Dude,
Get in one more thing. You know that song, If I'm Gonna Go Down, I'm Gonna Go Down Swinging.
Yeah,
do you know that song? That's horrible.
I actually don't, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think of that. If I'm gonna go down, I'm gonna go down swinging. So maybe someone knows that song. I'm sorry. If that's the first time you're hearing that song, that was a horrible way to hear it, but check it out. I don't even know who sings it. But just hang in there, right? Like, don't hang up on yourself.
Yeah, and I think that is, I was just thinking about this the other day. I'm like, maybe I should start scoring myself after cold call sessions of like, how well did I hang in? As I didn't use the word hang, but like how well did I stay convicted and just calm? Like, because like that's such an important thing. I might just start scoring myself after every single cold call. It's like 1 to 5. How well did I do that? It's such a key thing to having a good cold call. Everyone's like tone, this and that, but like if you just like score yourself on like your presence, the tone, everything else will be there. You have to know your buyer. You have to know what to say with objections, but like presence.
So JC Pollard, our buddy, said in our interview that he frickin' would I'd die for gong, but he based the long story short, he believes in it so much, and that mentality, it like leads him to hang in there and like actually, like he really believes gong will help people, and so I don't know if you feel that way with Sprout Social, where you believe in
the people that don't believe that, or that don't believe about their products. I think it's really hard for people to grab onto. Some people just don't believe in their product as much, and like I believe in what Sprout can do for very specific customers. I don't think it's for everyone, because I don't think any product's for everyone.
And that builds trust if you tell customers
I don't think,
that, by the way. I don't know if it...
But when I do see a fit, I am convicted and I go in and I have a POV.
Yeah.
But like, you know what I will die for and what I believe in is I believe in the game. I believe in how I show up because of who it makes me. So I choose to show up and have conviction because of like, if I do have that, I'll be more likely to do it again and again and again. I'll build my skill set at showing up and being convicted, not falsely, because I know it can't help people, but also just because like I know that when I show up with a good point of view, like, and I just challenge people's ideas, it makes me a better person in terms of the skill set of selling. And so like I really believe in the game, and I believe in showing up with intention and showing up at my best, and not so much the product. I believe in the game. And so people who have a hard time believing in their product, you do have to sell something that you think can help people. If you don't, like that is really tough. But if you don't fully believe in your product, or you don't love your product, but it can help a certain select amount of people, when you call those people, don't call those people to try to like sell them. Call them for you, so you can develop as a sales professional.
Boom, baby.
You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people do. I mean, JC's like a little bit of a different animal, because like he's been in the Gong Kingdom and they have the whole Gong thing.
I mean, dude, they have an incredible product.
Yeah, they have most people don't work at companies like that, because not a lot of companies like Gong. I'm lucky at Sprout, where we're quite similar. We have a great product. We have raving fans. Yeah. We're just, I'm not even going to go there, but like we have we're a really good company, and like from leadership down. But like if you don't have the good fortune of if you're not yet there where you've gotten to a company like that, it's okay. Call for yourself and call for your own personal development. Call for the future.
Amen.
I'm being real. I'm being real right now, because how you show up every single day is who you're going to become, and you don't want to be calling half-assed, because then you're going to have a half-assed skill set. And you're literally not gonna be able to come to and succeed at a company that you want to actually work at. Period.
I believe in that so much, dude.
Especially in this economy. Maybe 5 years ago you could have done it. Now, dude, people are like struggling. If you don't bring the proper skill set and focus, they're absolutely struggling. And it's just like, you gotta absolutely focus.
Dude, you struck at the heart of what I believe, that tech sales is for you. It's a tool for you to generate the self-development, the skill sets, the income, and the connections to create a life of freedom and impact. Cold calling is not, you're not doing it for your manager or for your company. You're doing it for your self-development.
You're doing it for you. Yes. How you show up every single day, you're doing it for you.
Dude, let's go.
Stop selling for someone. Seriously, people don't understand. Like you gotta do it for you, man. Because I think people can do so much more than what they typically do on a given day. I'm just like, you have to show up for you. And it's just that simple. When you just don't want to show up, because I don't have days where I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to cold call today, or I don't want to like talk to this customer that's going to give me a $12K contract. Like, I'm just kind of like, what am I doing? But I remind myself, I'm going to follow the principles of business because I know that when I follow the principles of business, follow principles of sales, I become a better salesperson. And when I give an inch, my game starts to go down. So when I do have that 100K contract, I won't be operating at my best level if I give in now, right? So it's all about who I become. And that's why I show up. So for people who don't sell amazing product or aren't insanely passionate about their product, that's okay. Just like do it for the future you, right? It's like that simple.
Do it for the future you.
Yeah. Seriously.
Boom. Yeah. So let's wrap up on the cold calling. And I realize we're about to our hour. I'm going to want to finish up talking about some of your passions and what you recently have been training people on, setting values and vision. So I don't know. I keep going back to the objections, but like, I'm not interested. Let's just wrap it up with how one more time, you know, it seems like you're curious, you're asking questions, and then closing out a cold call to set the meeting. So I'm not interested.
That's
high
totally
level.
fine. Yeah. So it's like, first off, and there's just like a great framework that Marcus Chan has, but it's just like very simple. First off, just like hear them out, pause, give them space because they're expecting you to like space. Say, hey, Chris, really appreciate you sharing that. You know, sounds like I missed the mark. Is that because you have a current vendor today, or you're just trying to get me off the phone? Haha, you kind of laugh a little bit, and then they'll also laugh with you. All I'm doing is I'm going, and that was actually like a Josh Braunism, but it's like you make them laugh a little bit.
Josh Braun.
You make them laugh, but you also give them a road, right? They're like either I actually do have a vendor, or I kind of am getting off the phone, or it's something else. But you're human because you pause. You say, hey, totally cool. Apologize if I missed the mark. Is that because you have a vendor? You're just trying to get the phone. And it's just like. And you don't have to say those words, but it's more.
It's an accusation audit too. Chris Voss's technique.
I like that. See, I didn't even think about that. But it's just,
you're labeling.
It's just the ethos. It's the ethos of, hey, really appreciate you sharing that. Totally get it. I'm not going to try to hardcore sell you, but like just curious because you have a vendor today, or you're just trying, and you kind of make them laugh and just pause. Just be human. Right? It's so hard. I'm making it sound so simple now because I'm not like on a cold call.
No, but dude, it is that it's simple, and of course the nerves will come up, but it's helpful for people to know the frameworks.
Yeah.
For how they can approach it. And then they say, oh, you hit on the hot button. They have a vendor. Like, what if I say that? And then you're like, oh, if you don't mind me asking, like, who are you using? And but like they start to open up. You're creating an opening for them to share. And then you might, so maybe they do say like, oh, who's a Sprout Social competitor?
One of ours is, I would say, Brandwatch.
So yeah, we're using Brandwatch.
Well,
how might you?
I'll have to change that. Oh, I'm kidding.
So how might you riff off that then?
Honestly, they'll say, hey, I'm using Brandwatch. I'm like, hey, you know, Brandwatch is a great tool. I don't like try to like, some people are like, oh, don't say that, like this, that, and the third. I don't mind. Like, Brandwatch is a great tool.
No, I totally agree with your approach.
Brandwatch is a great tool. We're better, but for certain customers who have certain needs, right? And from most customers. But to say, hey, Brandwatch is a great tool. You know, there's two ways you can approach this then. I usually like to say, hey, just curious, like, what are one or two things you like about Brandwatch? You just kind of get them talking.
100%
Again,
agree.
Josh Braunism, because once they start talking what they like, they'll share what they don't like. Or if you want to go a little harder on them, if you do want to go a little harder, say, hey, Brandwatch is a great tool. And we've had, you know, a number of customers like XYZ. And ideally, you should know or have some names in the back pocket. If you don't, a number of customers from your industry actually go from Brandwatch to Sprout for, you know, these two main reasons, or these three main reasons, 1, 2, and 3. Just curious, you know, which one of those resonates most with you? You don't ask if they resonate. You say which one.
Nice.
And then so it really, I don't care which one you do. It's just kind of feel it in the moment and kind of see what kind of buyer you have. If the buyer is more hard nosed and direct, you can go at them with what I will call the menu. If the buyer's a little softer and kind of just like your social manager, just kind of hanging out, is flow with them a little bit. Hey, like, what do you like about Brandwatch? And just kind of be with them, right? And like, again, I'm making this sound really...
I agree. It opens up the opportunity when you get them talking about what they like to then ask about what they don't like, any gaps.
Of psychology, you know? And it's like, this has been said, I didn't make this up, it's been said so many times, but like, I think one of the keys here too is like, for people that are curious, like you're going to learn through 1, doing, and then 2, on top of doing, if you want to put gas on the fire, invest in yourself and do as much self-development in terms of, if we're talking just sales as possible. I have invested easily over 15 grand into just like sales training over the last, I've been out of school for 4 or 5 years.
Dude.
And like also for all those who at the back in your mind, they know the money, I had student loans. So it wasn't a small amount. So like, there's no excuse to not
I've done the same, by the way, not just sales training, but particularly like seminars, like self-development
that too,
seminars,
dude.
which also
Like,
it's funny how personal
yeah.
growth seminars have sales concepts.
Dude, because it's all the same stuff. You have to show
crazy.
up as the right person
To sell is
then
human,
sell.
baby. Dan
Yeah,
Pink.
dude, I know.
Who
I know.
actually said, he responded to me and he said maybe reach out next year. Can you believe that, Dan Pink?
Dude, just build a add value. Send some cookies.
Yeah,
Send some
and
group cookies.
dude,
Yeah.
thanks to having great guests like you, the channel's gonna grow and boom.
Yeah, man.
But
Send
okay,
some group cookies.
okay. So I know we're on time. We're gonna go a little bit over, but that's so good. Like, ask, what do you like about it? It opens up the opportunity to then figure out maybe the gaps in what they don't like.
And don't do it like a freak. Do it easy. Do it calm.
Yeah. And then also just for the direct folks, I love what you're saying. Like, we typically, hear folks on Sprout Social or using a competitor at Brandwatch that, we've seen them shift from Brandwatch to Sprout Social for these reasons. And then assuming like which of those resonates most with you, not do any of those. This is something I still have to keep myself honest on. Is like, is cost savings a priority or like a pain point? Like, or it's more like, how are you managing cost savings, or which is a priority for you instead of is one of these.
And there's a balance because like Chris Orlob has a really good principle of like ask an open-ended question, make people feel in control, and then ask a more targeted one. Yeah, there's a balance on a cold call. I think because the first question you ask is like, is this on your radar, or are you open to, it's just like that kind of gives them a little bit more control. You can ask more targeted questions afterward. But like, I think the menu is really good because it just gives like someone who's like more direct, just like, yeah, you know what, this is a pain in the butt and I hate it. Yeah. And then they can tell you if it's a priority enough to want to change. Just because they have the problem doesn't mean they're going to solve it. Like, because they might not be a high enough priority. And I say, okay, cool. Like, can you help me understand at what point this will be more of a priority? And then they give you a bunch of fluff. Then you can come back again and just say, hey, usually the cost of not, usually I probably wouldn't use the word cost, but you can use the word cost. Usually the cost or the extended pain or the consequence of not shifting is X, Y, Z to marketing teams. You know what I'm saying? You can then outline what life's going to look like if they keep doing this and what maybe they don't know yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you can play that game with them, but just like, you got to know who you're talking to. So either go soft or go a little bit more direct, but like do it with the right people.
So you cold called me and maybe you find a need right away and like what you're doing is a priority, and then you can set the meeting, or I bring up some objections using Brandwatch, and then you actually get them talking to open up more of a dialogue and find maybe a gap or a reason to have a call. So let's set the meeting now, talk through how to set the meeting, and then finish up with, we'll talk about values. And so high level, how do you approach when
it's very, very simple. It's just say, hey, based off what you said, and again, this is going back to making them consistent with what they've said. It's, hey, Chris, based on what you said, where you're having a lot of problems with getting the right data within Brandwatch so that you can report to your C-suite on your social media, so it's hard for you guys to be able to even attribute some type of ROI on your social presence, which means they're taking away budget, right? You want to tell them a story back to them that they told you. I think I would highly recommend that we meet to talk specifically about that and how other customers overcome that challenge, and just candidly to help you learn a little bit more and see if we can even help you. Going forward, would you be open to doing that at Thursday at noon? Give me an exact time, and then be quiet. But like the core formula is, here's what you said. I'm going to quickly summarize it. Boom. Ideally, more concisely than what I just did. But quickly summarize. Plus, are you open to doing that at specific time? Be quiet.
Yeah, and you also alluded to see if we're a fit. You still weren't completely assuming,
because then there's still,
that actually diffuses pressure.
Yeah, diffuses pressure, dude.
You're still not. You're not, dude. A mistake people make is all of a sudden like, yeah, we have the solution for you, like 100%, and you maybe do. You probably do, but you still said to see if you kind of alluded to that. See
and where people might be conflicted if you're earlier in your sales career or earlier in your cold calling career, like people always say, like have conviction, and conviction sells, but you don't necessarily need to have conviction. Like we're best for everyone. I have a conviction in my ability to help you to help you make the best decision for your business. I have conviction in my ability to help you make the best decision for your business in this area. That's what I have conviction in. That's why we should meet. I don't know if we're necessarily for you, but I'm going to help you find out. And that's what you have conviction in. And that's where you can have conviction 100% of the time, because people are tired of salespeople having conviction. I mean, like, we're definitely for you. And like, I think there's a time for that. But
I think at its core, you're coming from a place of intention, from a place of service, and with the goal of seeking truth, getting to the source of can we actually help and build a partnership.
Is, dude, even if they're the wrong customer, and again, people aren't thinking like this because they're not really incentivized to, like, you might get the customer, but they're not going to be great from an LTV standpoint, like a lifetime customer value standpoint. Like they're not going to be great. They're going to churn.
Yeah.
It's going to actually be a lag on the business because you probably make money on them in year 2,
Yep.
3, and 4. So like, they're not the right customer anyway.
I've seen the cost of bringing on crappy customers that actually they cost a lot of time for. And in my space is it's selling engineering services and consulting. Our engineers and consultants cost a good amount of money. And if they're complaining a lot and taking a lot of their time with free consulting, even if they are bringing in some MRR, recurring revenue for us, could not be worth it, based on the size. So it's important to disqualify and not be so attached to getting any customer at all costs, but getting the right customers, especially from a long-term perspective, as you described.
Yeah.
So, hey, let's bring her home.
Let's do it.
Or him. I don't know what podcast is, a him or her conversation with defining values. I know you're so passionate about this, and you walked me through an amazing presentation that got me thinking more. And gave me more clarity.
I also cleaned it up a lot since you
okay, let's talk about it.
I was fortunate enough. We're 8 Straight, who's run by my good friend JC and also Kyle, who's also becoming a better and better friend of mine too. He's a really good dude. They've asked me to do some sales trainings before, and I've been asked to do sales trainings at other companies before and at my own. And so whenever I would do sales trainings, I'll also do like mental performance at the end, right? And I'll do like, here's how you can show up more confidence and engage in what you do every single day. And it's something that go back on too far into it. Essentially, coming out of college, I had some sales jobs offers. I didn't take them. I ended up cold emailing a NBA mental skills coach by the name of Graham Betchar, who's worked with some of the top athletes over the past decade in the NBA, and he let me go work for him for free and taught me just the foundations of just like intro to mental skills, like mental performance 101.
Cool.
And so from that, I've always been like learning and developing and going from there. And so now where I've come to with that is I'm starting to share a little more about like how do you become more confident and how do you feel like you're living more of an authentic life, because everyone wants to like live authentically to them. The problem is most people don't take the time to get quiet enough and just go, what are my values, or what values do I want to have that I think will really give me the life I want? And just like really being thoughtful of that, and like what are the emotions that limit me, right? And like being really thoughtful about that. And like people don't do that because it's a hard thing to do, and they don't take that quiet space. But like what I talked about in the presentation I just gave to 8 Straight on Thursday was like, what if you don't? Right? Let's talk about the like deception of good enough. Life's good enough, and then everything's good enough until you get old and you go, man, I wish I lived a more authentic life to myself, which really means just like more in line with my values. And it's too late by then. And so like, how do you get salespeople specifically, because that's who I'm talking to see that and go, okay, how do I actually get clear my values now, which will help me to be more confident because I'm showing up in line with who I want to become, right? And then you can then worry about pipeline. That's why the session was called Beyond Pipeline, How to Live with More Confidence and Authenticity. And so it's like everyone talks about pipeline in sales, but they don't talk about how do you live a life that you actually feel really good about, right? And it's just like something that I'm starting to elevate. I'm trying to try to, as much as I can, even within my posts or just on stuff like this, is start to elevate the conversation beyond pipeline a little bit.
Dude, this is such a great line for you, by the way, as you continue to build your brand. I see you making a monstrous impact, elevating beyond pipeline. Yeah, something like that. I think that's got such a good ring to it.
And dude, I'm for all of
and it's meaningful.
And dude, you've crushed quota. Tell me the first thing I want to do when I crush quota is I literally want to give. I want to give, and I want to go and like help people or donate I really do. I also want to go and like have all the nice things, and don't get me wrong, right? And I continue to acquire those, and I will continue to do that in my life. But like, I want to like help people, because that's what really matters, and I know that is like one of my core values. And so like, how many times do people hit quota and then they feel empty because like, is this all there is? It was never about the quota in the first place, right? It was never about the quota in the first place, but the growth. It was about the fulfillment of hitting a goal, and like really who you became, less the goal, right? And people can understand that and then create an identity and a values matrix around that, and be able to shift that anytime they want. Like, that's what I call the emotional ownership formula, which is something I created my own, but like it's basic principles people have been teaching for the last hundreds of years on this, and it's just something that has helped me through really hard times. So yeah, I'm working to elevate the conversation.
How about when I had Ian Cognac on and I asked him, how did it feel to get your first $1 million W-2? This guy's crushed it. And he said, it felt empty and disappointing.
Yep.
Like,
Empty,
is this
disappointing,
it?
dude.
So talk about someone who even is the epitome of crushing quota, making over $1 million a seller and feeling empty. What I'm hearing is purpose should come before pipeline, values.
I mean, values will give you a purpose, right? When people aren't motivated, and this is I'm speaking from my experience, right? I can't say that. I have to be careful how I speak. I'm speaking from my experience. Like, in my experience, like, you getting clear on your values and why it's important, you will give you a purpose. I feel like when I felt most aimless in life is because I wasn't clear on who I was and who I want to become, and I wasn't clear on what thoughts and emotions were limiting me. And like, when I do and when I don't, there's huge contrast. So my hypothesis is that that's the same for other people. And so let's take some time to really get clear on that, and then to go out in the world and actually take action. Because we can read all the self-development books in the world. You and I can sit here on these nice couches and do a podcast all day long and like feel really good about ourselves. But like, what's going to happen on like Monday morning when we don't feel like showing up to work? What are you going to actually think about then? Right. And it's like, that is the real stuff, dude. Right.
I'm inspired, man, because I certainly, I've got some projects like with the course coming out, Tech Sales Accelerator, and I have work in front of me that just, there's no getting around it. It has to be done. Obviously, I have my sales job. So thank you for motivating and inspiring me and for motivating and inspiring this whole audience. We're going to have more conversations on elevating, the conversation beyond pipeline.
I look forward to it, dude. I look forward to it. I've been talking to people about this, and some people really resonate. So I don't quite know where it's going to go yet, but I'm going to keep running with it because I think I think there's something here, and as long as I share my experience and real about just what I've experienced, I think it's going to be a real authentic message, and I'm just going to keep running with it.
I believe in it, and I'm here to be your hype man and amplify these ideas and also implement them myself. So let's leave the audience with maybe some practical things they can do or questions they can ask themselves to define values or build confidence. Maybe it's your emotional formula, and correct me on what the term.
It's called emotional ownership formula.
Emotional ownership formula. Okay, and you gave me that presentation, and you walked me through some practical things. So walk us through a couple things as our final. Maybe it's our final.
Dude, it's very simple. It's very, very simple. It's just a couple things. It's just like a couple. Like, it's okay, everyone. Who do you want to become? Right, really think about that. Like, what type of like emotions do you want to feel more of in life, and like what type of thoughts do you want to have more? What type of actions do you want to be taking? Right, and just get really clear on who do you want to become. Like, who do you want to become? And if you're not sure who you want to become, just go, okay, like what emotions do I want to experience more of? And or if you don't even know what that, like look at someone that you go, wow, like I really, really admire them for how they show up. Emulate that. Figure out what that is. If you really respect someone, how they show up. If you really are uncertain about who you want to become, most people I think know they just need to sit long enough to listen to themselves and like really know. But like, who do you want to become in terms of what emotions do you want to experience? What thoughts do you want to experience? What beliefs do you want to have about yourself, about the world? Right? Just pick two of each. You can just go, what two emotions do you want to experience more of? Just start there. It could be confidence, okay, and it could be like fulfillment, or it could be love, whatever it is. And then what are the two emotions that limit you the most? Right? What are the two most limiting emotions that you experience in your life? Should be pretty easy, right? Like those are, I think people really, really know those if they actually sit down with themselves. If you're wondering, mine are stress/fear and then anger. When I'm stressed out or fearful, except my ego won't call it fear, called stress. And then when I'm angry, those are my two most limiting emotions. So I know when I'm entering those zones, and I go, okay, I need to reshift myself and get back into the person that I chose to become. Like, and focus on that, right? And that's literally like at the fundamental level, it's all I do. There's some practices I have to get those feelings into my physiology every single day, but like at the bare minimum, if I just know that, and I just look at that every day, and I just kind of like feel those positive emotions for a second. If you just do that, like literally as a start, that's it.
The key call to action for all of us is to seek clarity on those things and who we want to be.
Yes.
Back to Brandon Burchard, High Performance Habits, another one.
Dude, that guy's so
those
good.
habits. He's so good. And you remind me of him, man.
Thank you,
and in
dude.
fact, I feel like both of us, we're so like-minded. And so I can't wait to have more conversations. Our hearts are in the same places. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed this conversation. I know I did. I hope you took notes. I hope you get out on the court and take what you learned and apply it and take massive action, not for anyone else, not for your companies, but for you to produce breakthroughs in your life and find meaning and impact and create connection. Now, any final calls to action from your perspective, other than I encourage everyone to connect with John on LinkedIn, and I've linked his LinkedIn profile in the description of this video, but any other final calls to action?
I think one is just like really like believe in what's possible for you if you're willing to put in the effort, and then like really get clear in, again, who do you want to become and what are the most limiting emotions? Because then you actually have control over you start to begin to have control over your psychology. Right. When you have control of your psychology and you come back to it every single day, you train your body to show up as who you want to become. You'll have much more control over the actions that you take and how you show up. So the thing of those, believe in yourself, right? Choose to do that even if you don't feel it, and then get control of your psychology. The two emotions you want to feel more of, the two emotions that limit you the most, and just focus on those two emotions you really want to experience. Just start there.
John, thank you so much for being here, sharing your passion, your insights. I feel inspired and ready to take on the world. Guys, thank you for your time and attention. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and share it with more people
Give it a like, baby.
who could benefit from the message. And to your success in tech sales and in life, happy selling and happy living. And we'll see you in the next one.